I still dream of that night. Not of the sorcerer, not of his blade. I dream of the voice from the flames. Was it a god, a demon, a conjurer's trick? I don't know. But the sorcerer called, and a voice answered. And ever since that day, I have hated magic and all those who practice it.
Most people hear that speech and feel pity. Poor Varys, mutilated as a child, scarred for life, hates magic because of trauma. But what if I told you that monologue isn't a trauma confession? What if it's evidence? Evidence that Varys has royal blood running through his veins, and that the sorcerer who cut him knew it before Varys did. Because in the world George R. R. Martin built, the most powerful blood magic, the kind Melisandre performs, the kind that births shadow assassins and burns men alive on pyres, requires one specific ingredient: king's blood. Not just anyone's blood, the blood of a royal line.
There is power in a king's blood.
And that sorcerer didn't grab a random child off the street. He paid a premium for Varys. He used the biological material. And then he threw the boy away like a spent match. He already had what he needed. The sorcerer targeted Varys because Varys is descended from kings. And every single thing Varys has done since that night, every whisper, every conspiracy, every mask, traces back to a dynasty most people have never heard of. The Black Dragon. House Blackfire. If you just felt the ground shift under a character you thought you understood, that's exactly the moment people hit like. Not because I asked, but because something shifted. Hi, I'm Nick, you're watching Cynic Cults, and we're just getting started. Now here's where this gets dangerous, because the Blackfire Rebellion isn't some minor footnote buried in fire and blood. It is the invisible engine driving the entire political collapse of Westeros, and almost nobody talks about it properly. So let me take you through the whole thing. Not the Wikipedia version. The version George R. R. Martin hid in deleted drafts, throwaway insigns, and jars of severed hands. Season 1, the Cellar scene. Arya overhears Varys and Illyrio plotting beneath the Red Keep. Most viewers hear that and think, okay, they're scheming to put Daenerys or Viserys on the throne. But here's where the cracks show. The Golden Company, the most elite mercenary army in the known world, rejected Viserys Targaryen when he came begging for their swords. They turned away a mainline Targaryen claimant. Why would the most powerful sellsword army in existence refuse the exiled heir to the Iron Throne? Because the Golden Company wasn't founded to seat a Targaryen on the Iron Throne. It was founded to destroy them. Every single man who marched in that army carried the legacy of Aegor Rivers, Bittersteel, who created the company with one oath and one oath only: put a black dragon on the throne. A Blackfire, the rival bloodline. They've never broken a contract in their entire history. 100 years of perfect honor. And then, in A Dance with Dragons, they suddenly shatter a lucrative contract with Myr to follow a teenage boy named young Griff across the ocean. Illyrio's explanation? Some contracts are written ink, and some in blood. That isn't poetry. That's a confession. There is a blood pact, signed years earlier by a man named Miles Toyne, whose family has been waging a century-long blood feud against House Targaryen. King Aegon IV ordered his ancestor, a Kingsguard knight, slowly tortured to death while his lover was forced to watch. Generations of vengeance. Generations of assassination attempts. And now, that hatred is marching west to crown a boy they believe is theirs. The Golden Company isn't breaking its word. It's keeping its oldest promise. Now, who is this boy? The surface answer is simple. He's Aegon Targaryen, Rhaegar's infant son, smuggled out of King's Landing before the mountain could crush his skull. That's the story Varys tells. That's the story John Connington believes. But Martin didn't spend 5 books building the most intricate liar in fiction just to have him tell the truth. In the House of the Undying, Daenerys sees a vision, a cloth dragon swaying on poles amidst a cheering crowd. A mummer's dragon, a puppet, a fabrication designed to be mistaken for the real thing. And she's warned, the mummer's dragon will be one of the great lies she must slay. Now, if that isn't damning enough, let me give you something Martin buried so deep that most readers walk right past it. In A Feast for Crows, a wandering Septon tells Brienne a story about an Insign. A blacksmith once forged a three-headed dragon out of black iron and hung it outside a tavern. During the first Blackfire rebellion, a Targaryen loyalist named Lord Derry hacked the sign down, chopped it to pieces, and threw it into the river. Years later, one of the dragon's 3 heads washed up on the shores of the Quiet Isle, and the black iron had rusted completely red. Let that land. A black dragon is thrown across the water. Years later, a single head washes back to shore, coated in red. It looks Targaryen. It appears Targaryen. But underneath, it is still black iron. That isn't a bedtime story. That is the Rosetta Stone of the entire Aegon plotline, and Martin buried it inside a travelogue chapter that most people skip. But if Aegon is a Blackfire, he's not just any Blackfire. And this is where the conspiracy goes deeper than anyone expects. Illyrio's second wife was a woman named Serra, Lysine. Silver gold hair, large blue eyes, pure Valyrian features. She supposedly died of the Grey Death, a swift, mortal plague related to Grayscale, contracted from a Braavosi trading galley. And Illyrio, heartbroken, grieving, claims he cut off her hands and preserved them in a jar in his bedchamber, because, he says, her hands were so soft. Now, I've got to pause here for a second, because this is where the lie collapses. The Grey Death is a cousin of Grayscale, and Grayscale, in every description Martin gives us, begins in the extremities. A tingling in a fingertip, a toenail turning black. The flesh stiffens, hardens, cracks. The hands and feet are the first things the disease destroys, turning them to stone. 3 short facts. The Grey Death petrifies flesh. It starts in the hands. And touching infected skin is fatal. You cannot preserve soft hands from a woman killed by this disease. You'd be storing cracked stone in a jar, and keeping them in your bedchamber would be a death sentence. The story doesn't hold up. Serra either didn't die the way Illyrio claims, or she didn't die at all. And deep lore analysts have pointed to a woman aboard young Griff's boat, Septa Lemore, a mysterious woman who bathes openly, revealing stretch marks suggesting she's borne children, and refuses to discuss her past. A woman who watches over the boy with an intensity that goes far beyond religious duty. Look at how Martin writes Lemore's interactions with young Griff in A Dance with Dragons. There is a warmth there that reads as maternal, not devotional. That isn't a Septa. That's a mother. And Varys? Where does the spider fit in this bloodline? Go back to the castration. The sorcerer needed king's blood. And according to Grandmaster Pycelle, Varys was born in Lys, the exact free city where Aerion Brightflame, a Targaryen prince, was exiled and likely fathered children. Aerion eventually died drinking wildfire, leaving behind an infant son named Maegor. During the Great Council of 233 AC, the lords of Westeros skipped over baby Maegor, fearing he'd inherit his father's madness, and crowned Aegon V instead. After that council, Maegor vanishes. No death, no exile, no mention. Just gone. The theory, and the evidence is deeply compelling, is that Maegor's descendants ended up in Essos, married into the surviving female Blackfire line, and produced children who carried both Targaryen and Blackfire blood. Illyrio himself tells us that when Meleys the Monstrous died upon the Stepstones, it was the end of the male line of House Blackfire. That specific phrasing, the male line, is Martin telling you the female line survived. And if Varys descends from that combined bloodline, If his blood carries the legacy of both the red and the black dragon, then his castration wasn't random cruelty. It was targeted extraction. The sorcerer knew exactly whose blood he was burning. And here's the darkest part. Varys is a eunuch. He cannot continue any dynasty. If he is the last male Blackfire, then the male line didn't end because the last man died on a battlefield. It ended in a brazier. Look at Conleth Hill in any scene where Varys watches the throne. That face, that perfect stillness. There is something behind those eyes that the show never fully explains. The books do. And that is what nobody understands about Varys. He isn't a spy master serving the realm. He isn't a humanitarian worried about the common people. He is a man whose blood was burned out of him as a child, who watched his family's legacy scattered across 2 continents, who clawed his way into the most powerful intelligence position in the world, and spent 40 years engineering the return of a dynasty the world thinks is dead. Every move. Robert's assassination, Ned's execution, the destabilization of every king who sat on that throne. All of it was fertilizer. All of it was designed to create the exact conditions where a boy no one has heard of can walk into Westeros with the Golden Company at his back, a legal claim that supersedes Daenerys Targaryen's, and the ancestral Valyrian steel sword Blackfire itself, hidden in Illyrio's manse for years, packed in a chest and waiting for the boy to wield it. The Black Dragon never died. It just learned to wait. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Do you believe Varys is a Blackfire, a Brightflame descendant, or something else entirely? And more importantly, when Varys finally reveals what he truly is, will anyone in Westeros even understand what they're looking at? This is the part where most channels beg you to subscribe. I'm not going to do that. But if this video made you see Varys differently, not as a servant of the realm, not as a schemer, but as the last survivor of a bloodline that was literally burned out of him, then you already think the way this channel thinks. We're building an empire of people who refuse to accept the version they were given. And if you're still here, you're already one of us. You know what to do. I made a video breaking down how every single move Varys made across 8 seasons was actually hinting at this conspiracy in plain sight. The show gave you the clues. You just didn't know what you were looking at. That video is right here. Watch that next. See you there. Until then, stay cult.